Who are you? Who are you at work? Who are you at home? Who are you at church? Who are you when your family and your business and everyone interacts with you? Are you the same person? You need to be, and it's hard to do. I get that. We're going to talk to someone who I think is on the right track. He handles purpose, and he handles it under pressure as him. Brett Ruiz, next. And the heat is on. That means pressure. Let's get cooking. This is Purpose Under Pressure, brought to you by the Ruby Group Sandler Sales Training, serving sales professionals nationwide from their Akron and Columbus, Ohio locations. They, and I mean it, they are one of the highest performing Sandler sales training affiliates in the nation. What does that mean to you? It means that they get things done right. And if you hire them, you're going to get some benefits out of that. So that's huge. They will make a difference for you and your team. You can check them out online at therubygroup.sandler.com. My guest today on the podcast, my friend Brett Ruiz. He's the owner of Medina Exteriors and Simply Distinct Kitchens and Bath. That's home interior and exterior remodeling expert in Medina, Ohio. He's also an author. The book is Blue Collar Entrepreneur, 9 Principles for Building a Business That Works for You. Most importantly, husband, father, and he's a podcaster too. And that's pretty cool. Maybe we'll talk about that. He has a show called the Tell Your Friends podcast. Brett Ruiz, welcome to Purpose Under Pressure.
I am so humbled and pumped. Like I couldn't sleep last night. I had everything set up. I was ready to be on pressure.
I am sorry to lose sleep for you. I did not mean for that to happen. You look like you got a couple bags under the eyes. I apologize for that.
No need to apologize. I'm just honored and humbled to be here, Brian. It's been a great journey that both of us have been on, and I think there's a lot that we can share together that can help your audience and helps me. So I appreciate it.
I think so too. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on the show, because I know you are a man of purpose. When I began the show, I wanted it to be about people who just believed in something so strongly that they were going to build it, but then be able to also weather the storms that come, because it's not as easy as just building it and riding it off into the sunset. And I know what you're made of. I know your core values. I understand that that is also part of your business, and I want to share that with folks. And so, Brett, let's start. Let's just dive right in. Let's talk about purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? What makes you tick?
Great question. What makes me tick? Don't ask my wife that question. You might not get them talk.
Notice that I didn't.
We may not get we may get the real truth, but so what really makes me tick and drives me is just making sure that Brett's the best that he can be. And what I mean by that is that in order to serve not only God, but my family, our team members, just society in general, is I have to be the best that I can be. And that, is being in scripture. That's making sure I'm mentally prepared, spiritually prepared. And also I would say, physically too, making sure that, when I'm 80, 90 years old, I can pick up my great grandkids. I can do those things. So that's what really drives me now. And of course, on the business side is improving lives by improving homes. But all that, I think, stems from just being prepared and being the best of who I am and whose I am in God. So that really drives me. And that's, is my why.
How do you know? It's a fair question. How do you know when you're at your best? You can always do more, right? Do you want to do more? Can you do more? Does it make it worth it to do more? But how do you know when you're at your best?
I would say that how I know I'm at my best is when I'm able to see prosperity in all areas of my life and not just in one. I have a tendency, it's all the things work, family, church, the business, all that's, I'm not 100% in one. And I think we talked a little bit before we came on the podcast of just even being like, when we were younger, we had kids, and a lot of the stuff we don't really remember because we're so busy and our minds are, there's so much we're doing. And as we get older, and congratulations, you're having a grandchild coming up here. So and I have 7 of them. So you can spend that time, but it's intentional. And that's when I see that when I'm intentional and there in each one of those areas, obviously God's the center, but then I know that I'm doing the best that I can.
And do you pay attention to those things? Because I know how hard you work at these things. Do you pay attention to what got you there so that you can then do it again?
Yeah, I think that paying attention to, yeah, that's a good question. Paying attention to what got me there. It's always an evolution. It's always a process. And I think that it's building upon it, but there's always a solid foundation that I've been able to stay grounded in. And if I'm able to do that, then the other things seem to follow, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I answered that or if you had any thoughts on that.
It does. And so you're kind of stay in your lane, right? Take control of the things you can control, do the things, but you notice where it makes a difference. And I'm wondering how, let's talk, because I know how important your business is and I know how important your family is. And I know how important God is to you. How do you rank that? Do you pour everything into the business so that the family can grow and you can serve God? Do you pour everything into the family so that you can make sure there's enough for the business? How do you keep the balance in your life straight so that you can be the best that you can be?
So a couple things. What I've learned is, personally for me, balance always seemed to be like a scale in my head that I was taking one thing from another. So I've learned to call it like a rhythm. Am I having a right rhythm through those three things: God, family, and work? And what I learned was that our pastor at church one time in a life group we were doing said that it's kind of like the universe, where you had, for the longest time, everyone tried to put the earth in the middle, all these philosophers, and nothing worked, nothing aligned and nothing went around the circle. It was just chaos. But then someone finally figured out that everything revolves around the sun. And then all of a sudden, all the orbits and all the planets aligned and everything. And that analogy was that if God is always at the center, because you asked, like, where do you pour everything into? Well, if God's in the center of everything, when I'm with my family, when I'm at work, when I'm on a podcast, whatever I'm doing, if God's at the center, that's my stake in the ground. That's how I'm grounded. And that allows me to be the best that I can be in all those areas. And it starts with God being in the middle.
Tremendous. And that brings us to when those pressures rise, when, you've got you're standing firm on rock, and yet the wind blows and the storms come and the troubles come, and that's when the pressure hits. What kind of pressures have you been under? When it comes to pressure, what do you think about? And let's kind of go there.
Yeah. And I think that for sure it's not if, it's when. as you're finding out and experiencing, as a young, I should say young in maturity of your company, a new entrepreneur.
Yeah.
See a lot of that. And so for me, that starts to come, that pressure will come when I start to get outside of my structure, not living in my 90-day worlds, not living in yearly buckets, and not planning for those things, on a yearly and then quarterly basis. And then it allows me to, because I had a hard time in learning to say no. I had that FOMO, fear of missing out, that if I don't do stuff, I'm going to miss something. So kind of give you an example of that. I have 3 buckets on a whiteboard. I have, all my 90 days, quarter 1, quarter 2, I just did. I'll be doing quarter 3 at the end of June here. But I always have to look to that and look and see what I'm going to do or someone's asked me to do, does that fit in one of my 3 buckets that I have? And
let's go back a second. What's the 90-day bucket? Give me an idea of what's the concept there. What are you trying to accomplish?
So in a 90-day, so I have readers so that I can see what I'm doing here, but I'm looking at my board now. So in 90 days, what I'm trying to do is figure out what's going to fulfill my 1-year goal. So like I have bucket 1 is about the business. Bucket 2 is about my faith and defending it. And bucket 3 this year is about my health, and about finding a new doctor and all these things. So I'll start out, with those buckets, what am I looking to accomplish for a year? And then I'll dive into, the 90 days. Like this quarter, I have a software company. We're finalizing the direction of that, and then move on it. Is our team fully engaged, on the business side in a mind methodology that we have? And then figuring out church life group, and then finding a doctor. and then, be content and stop judging. So those are things that are going to fit inside that bucket for these 90 days. And then I'm going to figure out the next 90 days. And then I take, a lot of people, I'm sure for you too, and I've done it to you, is that it's like, hey, read this book or listen to this podcast, or you need to go do this, you need to do that. And I have to take all that in and then see and measure it against that 3 buckets for the year and in my 90-day world. Because if I don't, and I, in the past, I just read the book. And what happens is it just psychologically, I read the book, get it done, but then I beat myself up because I can't implement anything in the book, even if I loved it. Yeah. So I've learned to only take and do what and stay the path and stay the course of what's in there. And I have it on a board that I have to continually just look at it and read it every day.
What happens with the bucket? Where's the bucket for today's crisis? So you wake up, you swing your feet out of bed in the morning, and all of a sudden, the tax man called, or your biggest customer canceled, or the equipment didn't show up on time or broke, or there was, something went wrong. You didn't have a bucket for that. How do you fit that in and still make and handle that pressure outside of what you were planning to do, on this day?
So first of all, God's in control. I know that. That's my grounding.
And that's part of your bucket.
So that's part of my bucket. Mm-hmm. And then also that I know those things are going to happen, and are they going to, so I can cause that to derail me. I could get upset about it, or I can cause it to allow me to look at it and figure out, okay, what was it that we did, that we could have controlled that allowed this to happen? So just evaluate it with our team, because we've had that, customer cancel, or you get up and, something happens and you just weren't expecting it. And I think that's one of the things in my 90 days is making sure that we're on the same mind methodology, that we're all pushing towards the most important number in our company, because now you have, in the company, we're grounded. We're grounded pushing towards that. So someone canceling, okay, let's dig into it. Let's figure out, what did we do? What can we do better? How can we improve ourselves? Or if something else happens, or even positive stuff, is that going to push that number up, that most important number? So that seems to be.
Do you share that with your team? Does your team, are they as calm as you are in the face of storms? Do they look to you, or how does that work as far as the whole company of Medina Exteriors is Simply Distinct?
That's where leadership comes in. And as a leader of the company, first of all, I have to show those core values and live those. I can't sit here on, your podcast and say all those things and then go, get a phone call in an hour from now and just berate, freak out, So first of all, I live them. Mm-hmm. And then also as leadership, we're always looking at and change what is working for me as a leader. So that's my visionary. That's what I'm doing. And then my team is, they're focused on that. Now it's grounded them. Before, they would get just as, oh, what happened? I can't believe this, and they would get emotional about it. But it's kind of taking the emotion out of it, where we're pushing towards that most important number for our team. So we all know everything we do below that needs to push towards that. So I think that's really helped them to ground them and to emotionally take that out, and then just calmly, not that they're not upset about it or emotionally, but to calmly be able to assess it now, because they have a barometer. And it kind of goes back to the thermostat and thermometer, where on the outside, if you let everything bother you, you're going to be like a thermometer. It's going to go up and down. But a thermostat, if you set at 72 degrees, that's your baseline. And that seems what, this methodology is done for us, is it's 72 degrees. Okay. So how do we get it turned to 70? How do we get it back to 72? So that kind of helps us to stay grounded within the business.
What kind of things happened to you and to your company, and maybe even to your family in the past, that set you on this path? Because I'm sure that you had to figure out that you needed these things to stay strong. What kind of pressures started to knock you off, or still could, that you've been able to accomplish, overcome through this process?
So the biggest obstacle or pressure is just me. Bottom line, it's that if I don't lead right, if I'm not grounded, and if I'm not letting our team perform the way that they should perform, then that's when a lot of pressure comes, because up at the top, it's all falling apart and it just trickles down through it. And then everybody starts to do things. And I mean, everybody, as we went through, COVID, as you learn, even all the years that, it's just a process. And it's, like I said, it's an evolution. And it just seems that everything that we walk through, it just happens to grow us. And if you're being a good student, and if you're watching those things, then it's going to mature in a way that gets us to where we are today. And then also being that good student, that we have to continually learn, we have to continually give back, we have to continually build each other up. I mean, I'm 57 years old. It's about the next generation. It's about our team. It's about my grandkids. It's about my kids. It's not about Brett. So I think that's made a big difference in my mindset change. But yeah, I would say that.
Say on the rule, only decision makers can get other people to make decisions. Each and every day, we have a decision to make. Also, when we're with buyers in our sales process, we have a decision to make how we're going to lead that interaction. And if I'm somebody that can make daily commitments and keep those daily commitments, then when I'm with buyers, I expect them to make commitments and keep those commitments to me throughout that sales process. So first and foremost, I have to have a decided heart in order to lead other people to make the decisions that I'm expecting them to make.
Your business, Brett, Medina Exteriors and now Simply Distinct, has been around for how long? Have you been in business?
Since 1991, so 32 years, the 33rd season.
Yeah. What do you say? There's a lot of lessons learned there, and well done. Businesses don't last that long. Small family businesses, I mean, tremendous. Kudos. What do you say to the young entrepreneur, the person that's out there, a truck and a tractor and a ladder and trying to figure out how to do the next thing they're trying to do and build their business and build their family? What do you say to them when they don't have these buckets in place and they're trying to get rolling? You've got the experience. How can you help them? Is it in the book? Is it something they can learn? There is that read the book, Blue Collar Entrepreneur. What do you tell a new entrepreneur from your wisdom and guidance that they just can't quite feel yet because they just haven't been there yet?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's real. I have a 20-year-old nephew that is struggling with this right now. Getting the pressure to go. Talk about pressure. Under purpose is going. What's the purpose under the pressure? He's getting pressured to go to college. Everyone's telling him you got to go to college. You got to get a degree. His dad, his aunts, uncles, everybody. And he's just not a college guy. He did it. He played sports and he was in college, and he's in high school. And the only reason that he did good in school is because the reward was sports. But when he wasn't going to play sports out of college or high school, then it became, I don't like school, but that's where I think that there's so much out there that, whether your spiritual life, your entrepreneurial life, your family life, there's so much out there that comes at you through the internet, through how do you filter this? Who do you listen to? Who do you trust? And I think that finding as a young entrepreneur, someone did it for me. I didn't have all the information that, this generation has access to, but someone came alongside of me and put their arm around me, had empathy for me, and just taught me. And then, someone else came along. And then once I was in the second phase, I was able to help someone that was where I was when I started. And it was just a reciprocal cycle that I've seen. And God always seems to put the next person into my life. And then from there, I'm able to help the person, I don't want to say below me, but the person that's struggling maybe in something that I've been able to do. So as a young entrepreneur, I would say, first of all, know you're going to fail. And it's a matter of, if you're going to fail often and fail forward. Then Google, that was one of their core values, is if you're going to fail often and fail fast and fail forward. So I would just say that, and just find a mentor Don't look at someone that how much money they're making or what they're doing. Look at them for what their core is, what they believe in, and see if that aligns with what your beliefs are. And then let that person mentor you. And then once you get mentored, start mentoring someone else. And it's almost like the teacher becomes a student, the student becomes a teacher, because whenever I teach or whenever I mentor, I become better. It actually rewards me probably more than them, because now, I have to live those practices or those principles out.
Which brings you full circle, because what you said in the very beginning was that your purpose in life and what you're trying to do is just be the best Brett you can possibly be. And so by teaching and helping others, you're able to do that. And so I love the advice you're giving. And let's change gears just a little bit about anticipating problems and just knowing they're coming and being ready to solve them, and trusting and being very trusting to accomplish that. I want to talk about your podcast. You've got a podcast that actually promises your customers that you're going to show the whole course of working on their house and the ups and the downs and the goods and the bads, and you're going to share it in a podcast with them afterwards, and with everybody, with the world. And that's got to take a little bit of guts, because sometimes the screws don't go in straight, right? Tell me a little bit about the Simply Distinct Tell Your Friends podcast.
Yeah, that's one thing that, having built what we've built as a team, talk about pressure. That's a lot of pressure. I mean, or could be, could be a huge weight on your shoulders. So what we've seen it do for us, and what our mindset has always been, obviously our passion is improving lives by improving homes. We have our most important number, what we're driving for, and our clients. We want satisfaction for our clients within the industry we are in the construction industry. So the pressure actually did not, the pressure created a positive. Because what it did was, obviously, we went to our team and we said, hey, this is, for the last couple of years, it's been in my head, I'm the visionary. This is what I would like to do. You came along, same thing. Boom. We're like, all right, we're going to do this. So we brought it to the team, and they were part of it, because obviously me as the owner, if I sit there and tell them, hey, we're going to do this, that could cause a lot of issues, and maybe insecurities, or we're not going to be able to perform. My job's at risk if we don't. So we had to go to the team and say, hey, here's what we're looking to do. Can we fulfill this guarantee / promise that we're going to make, that we're going to do a podcast, allow our client to come on and allow them, whether it's good, bad, or beautiful, to tell their story. And the team actually, it created a positive, because they were like, well, yeah, we already do that. We know we're going to make mistakes. How do we fix it? Actually made them better, because they're striving to improve lives by improving homes, and they know that there's going to be issues. It's how we handle it, how we communicate, and how we show the world how we improve lives by improving homes. So that's really what the Tell Your Friends podcast really has brought to our team. Was, I don't know if accountability is the right word, but just brought a camaraderie around something, and just rallying the troops, to just push forward, to make sure that, our clients are satisfied. They're spending a lot of money. They need to be, we don't want to be like everybody else. We know all the horror stories in the construction industry. Yeah. Let's hit it head on.
It's a little like packing your own shoe, doesn't it? If you're going to jump out of an airplane, you trust yourself, you trust what you're doing, you trust the end result, and you make the commitment. And so you've made the commitment to your customers that said, look, we're going to show this whole thing all the way through. If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. We're going to show you what we did to fix it, and we're going to let it out. And there's never a time, the way I understand it, there's never a time that if things go really badly, which I know it doesn't happen, you don't allow it to happen, but that story's going to get told too. And I just think that's how you stand up. You're on purpose. The pressures come. You're standing up. Quick question. How do you know that you are succeeding at improving lives by improving homes? You've improved the home. You can see the before and the after, the good, the bad, the beautiful. How do you know you've improved your lives? I know how important that is to you. How do you know that you've accomplished that goal?
Simple. I'll ask you, are you going to tell your friends? If they tell their friends, or that they say, yes, we would refer you or tell friends, then we've improved their lives by improving their homes. Of course, there's, obviously the functionality. Obviously, they're going to love the functionality, the kitchen. We solve their issues or problems. We talk about that stuff on the podcast. But the bottom line is, if they tell their friends and they're going to refer us, then, we've improved their lives by improving their homes.
It's an amazing concept, and it's a refreshing way to do business in this new day and age where there's a lot of people doing a lot of things, trying to earn a lot of business, and you've really focused on doing things the right way, and you do your family that way, and you treat your life that way too. And well done.
Well done. I will say, Brian, that it's been a collaboration of people in my life that I've allowed in my life with other unique abilities than what I have. And just an example of that is you. I could, if I wanted to, I'm smart enough to sit down, and even though I was a roofer when I started out, I'm still fairly smart where I could sit down. I could learn how to pop into this, studio or, edit stuff and do all that. That's not my unique ability. And I like to team up and collaborate with people, not only on our business, but family, people like yourself, that we're able to collaborate and have unique abilities that are different to create this huge, beautiful, unique community that has an opportunity to change the world. So kudos to you too. We've really journeyed this past year, and I'm just so humbled and blessed to get to know you even deeper than I knew you before. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That means everything to me. And folks, this is the real guy. This is who you're talking to. When you call Medina Exteriors for exterior work, or Simply Distinct Kitchen and Baths for your interior work, this is who you're getting. This is the real deal, and I encourage you to do so. Also, if you're a young entrepreneur, or you would just like to talk to a mentor, or anything that you've heard today that Brett's talked about, I bet you he wouldn't mind if you reached out. Brett, how would they reach out to you if they wanted to call?
If they wanted to reach out, as far as the business, obviously, at medinaexteriors.com, or at our phone numbers 330-725-2235. And then personally, if they wanted someone, was looking at mentorship or had any questions in any way I can direct them, either if it's not me or someone else, would be my email address is my first name, Brett, Brett, at medinaexteriors.com. And I'd be more than happy to help out any way that I can.
I know you would. I know that's what comes first for you, and we are happy that you're here to help us do that. That is Brett Ruiz, folks. He's the owner of Medina Exteriors and Simply Distinct Kitchen and Baths. He's also available to learn more about from and his customers as well on the Tell Your Friends podcast. You'll find that wherever you watch your shows, on the YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the things. So thank you, Brett Ruiz, for being a part of our show. This is Purpose Under Pressure. It's brought to you by the Ruby Group, Sandler Sales Training. Sellers really are under a lot of pressure to perform, and that causes a pressure, and maybe a seller who tries to force things or be pushy or whatever it might be. That's just not the way to get it done. Let's do it right. Sandler helps you succeed on purpose. You will find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at brianmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your podcast. We do this every week, and we will see you next time on Purpose Under Pressure.